Hey guys, Dave here. Just wanted to do another video talking about the state of the knife industry. So what is that topic going to involve? Well, basically where are we at or where we are at with the knife industry and the way that it stands today. This is in August of 2024. So, right now, I believe the knife industry is very oversaturated, mostly by the Chinese companies, a lot of the Chinese OEMs, and I can't even begin to name them all because I don't care, nor do I give them my money. I prefer to buy everything American, and then when it comes to custom makers, that's definitely a different story. I do like some South African makers, obviously American makers. There are some French makers that are very, very good as well. But when it comes to the production side of things, I definitely don't invest in the foreign companies, generally speaking. Mostly China, I should say. However, being oversaturated, the Chinese market has really had such an influence on the industry. They're offering what they claim to be quality products at reasonable prices, whereas many of them are not. I would say the majority of them are not because there's false advertising. A lot of them, I do not believe, use the quality materials that they claim. Just remember, without getting into much of a rant, you support a Chinese company, you are supporting communism. And I stand by that. And maybe I'll talk about that in a different video. Take that for what it is. If you don't like it, that's the truth. Do your own research, but it is the truth. The way they suppress their people, you know, I don't want to get into that topic right now, but anyway, it has to come up honestly because of what the knife industry is experiencing. So, a lot of the Chinese companies um, have a big influence in the market and have had for some time. They are starting to use quote unquote more premium materials in their knives and then upcharge the prices to compete with even the American made companies. Problem is, instead of supporting the American companies, when you support the American companies, the money goes right back in to the economy, especially if you buy locally. So let's just say you live in Golden, Colorado, or in the Denver area where they live, where they are operating out of. Okay. Yes, they do have their lines of the Chinese made knives, the Italian made knives, Taiwanese as well as the American made. But what I'm talking about as a company, it's an American company. Okay. If you want to use Benchmade, you could use Benchmade as an example. None of their products are outsourced. But if you were living outside of Portland, you're living outside of Golden, Colorado, you're living outside of Fletcher, North Carolina, or that other town in Pennsylvania. I can't remember where Microtech is located. You are supporting the American company. You're supporting the American knife manufacturer. You're supporting American jobs. You are producing growth within the economy of where and which you live. So it helps boost the economy, creates better jobs, better working environments, and then keeps the money here in America. And in order to keep recycling those funds, that revenue within the country creates for a better economy. So it definitely is much more beneficial supporting the American companies, especially if you're an American. I like to support American made companies. In regards to the Taiwanese market, you don't really see a huge influence of Taiwanese made products as far as knives go, outside of, from the top of my head that I can think of, some of the CRKT line are made in Taiwan. They have, I believe, some Spartan knife products that are manufactured in Taiwan. Spyderco has their line of the Taichung Taiwan models as well. I'm trying to think who else. There are probably a few additional entities, but Taiwan Taiwan is a free nation. Okay, it might not be free in the same sense of American free, but it's not communist, and I support Taiwan fully. Uh, and they make better products than the Chinese as well. So you have that part of the market. You have the Italian market. You know, your Lion Steel, your Viper, your I'm trying to think of some other names. You have MKM. Um, you also have Mazarin as well. Mazarin, however it's pronounced. So you have a decent sized Italian knife market, and then you have, you know, some other little odds and end players as far as knife companies go, where they're made. You have Sford out of New Zealand, just off the top of my head, and other places as well. As a whole, I think the knife industry still probably makes, well, maybe it's subjective. I was going to say that the American knife companies are probably the predominant ones overall. However, like I said, the market has been flooded by the Chinese knife market, and they've had a big influence in the community as well. Uh, Besides that fact, I definitely believe it is oversaturated. I stated at the beginning of this video. There are so many knives out there, you don't know what to choose, especially if you're just starting out. What do I look for in a knife? You know, what handle materials should I buy? What steel should I invest in? You know, people that are non-knife people have these types of questions, you know, ergonomics and longevity, and is the lock going to fail on me, or is it going to be solid? You know, there's so many different variables that people look at, especially those people who are knife nuts like ourselves, right? Right now, though, as I said, the industry is oversaturated. There's just, I would even say there's probably too much out there. And the majority of that is because of the Chinese market. They are trying to overtake the market, okay? That's what they do. Uh, like I said, not trying to be too political here, although I really don't care. If you like it or dislike it, you know, if you, or I should say, if you dislike it, too bad. You could watch another channel. I really don't care. But that's what the Chinese market does. They buy into certain industries and they overtake them. That's what communists do. The Chinese Communist Party. So, anyway, I have to say that, you know, the market is down as far as people buying new things. Yes, you know, people are still buying certain things. I believe it varies based on availability, it varies based on volume, it varies based on, you know, there's so many factors into play. You know, limited runs, sprint runs of different knives, limited editions, you name it. Those are generally going to continue to sell, especially if it's a hot item, a very popular item. You know, there's always something new coming out trying to vie for your attention, and most of it doesn't do anything for me. Most of it is hogwash, in my opinion. There's very little innovation from what I have seen in the, I'll say, the production knife industry as of late. There hasn't been many new things come out that's really caught my attention and said, wow, that looks like a really interesting product. I might want to try that out. You know, it's just the same old thing. Everyone's copying everyone, especially the Chinese market. You'll see if you look at designs. I noticed that even when I was just scrolling through the Blade HQ website, I noticed, hey, that looks like a high-end custom maker's knife, or that looks like a high-end production knife. You'll see those types of things because they also, that's another thing they do. The Chinese also invade, and not only do they invade markets, they steal technology and they steal designs and all types of other things. Uh, so, but as a whole, as far as the market is right now being down, I believe that has to do with the fact that the economy is not great. The economy is not great, right? We know this. If you don't know this, just get your head out of the sand, do a little research, listen to the news, not the liberal media, but listen to someone solid. Listen to Mark Levin, listen to Dan Bongino, listen to, although not perfect, Glenn Beck is very good in what he reports on, and there are other sources. Dick Morris, Michelle Malkin, fantastic. Look up Michelle Malkin if you've never heard of her. She is amazing. And just the economy is down, so people have less money for knives, and so they're putting it toward things that you can actually use, because you only need so many knives, right? They're putting it toward food, they're putting it toward clothes, medicine, new beds, whatever they need done in their house. They're putting it towards supplies and things for their family that are going to be more useful in the long run. In reality, we probably could get away with 2 or 3 knives a person, in all seriousness. Obviously, we collect more because we enjoy the hobby. But, like I said, the economy's down, and it's not, let me tell you this, it's not that the economy is down in the form of a recession or a depression, like back in the 1930s, right? But this is caused by not inflation, but it's forced inflation, okay? If you don't know that, look it up. I'm telling you, it is there. The forced inflation has been going on for a while, but they really used COVID as an excuse so they could hike the price up on things that used to be cheaper. Meat, eggs, bacon. That's also a form of meat, obviously, but there's a variety of different things that have significantly gone up in price that had never been so expensive. Cotton has gone up significantly. And I'm trying to keep this on knives. I know I'm going into other things, but I'm telling you the root cause of some of these issues, okay, guys? So, with that said, people are spending less. The forced inflation is driving the prices up of everything, and people don't realize that it's manipulated that way because it's all about control, okay? They don't want you to have control over your own lives, all right? They don't want you to control what you own. If you look up their whole 2030 ESG plan and everything, that they want you to own nothing and like it, it's pretty sick what's going on. But I will say that when it comes to production knives, prices are very high amongst a lot of companies. Some have remained reasonable. I honestly do believe, even with Spyderco's prices going up incrementally each year, as most companies do, Benchmade does as well, and I believe Zero Tolerance is another one. Gerber I don't really pay too much attention to, but they've gone up incrementally, but Spyderco has been pretty consistent. And you actually, if you've been watching or following it for a long time, you can get a lot of sprint run Spydercos for pretty reasonable prices, with even, I would venture to say, better steels than, say, your typical, nothing wrong with it, but your typical standard S30V model. Not long ago, St. Nick's Knives had a release for the Manix 2 lightweight and 4V stainless steel. This was, well, I guess it wasn't new. It was probably like a year ago, but that was cheaper in price than even your Spy 27 model, the Maximate model, and arguably a an arguably better steel in some respects in certain things. Definitely even more than the BD1 and BD1N models as well. So I think Spyderco has been pretty good overall about their prices. Benchmade has been, in my opinion, in regards to many models, astronomical. think a lot of people in the industry would agree with that. Excuse me. Zero tolerance, I'll just tell you right now, I'm not really a ZT fan. I've had a few of them. I've sold every one of them. They don't interest me, really, at all. I don't know what it's lacking, but I just don't care for it. It's really not my taste. But I'm trying to think of other companies. Microtech has also gone through the roof in regards to their prices. Heck, ProTech makes great knives, but they have also skyrocketed significantly to the point where I don't even really pay attention to them anymore. They've really gone and got out of hand, especially because so many of these companies outside of Spyderco doesn't heat treat their steel accordingly, right? They keep it on the lower end. If MagnaCut is supposed to be higher performing steel between 63 to 65 HRC, and even up as high as I think 66 HRC, maybe even 67. I don't fully recall, but a lot of custom knife makers will go up in those higher numbers. The production knife companies will stick at 60 to 62. Now 62 isn't necessarily bad, but 60 and 61 is really not great. You're not getting any viable performance out of that steel at that HRC, especially with the edge geometry. Knife companies, if you're listening to this channel, which I doubt that you are because I am a very small channel, small voice. But if you ever do come across this video, please bring the edge geometry to a much thinner edge behind the edge. have a much more acute cutting edge. It's about performance. You might want it to be more robust, but really, most people don't hammer their knives through a tree. Most people are not prying open car doors. They have other tools for that. We knife guys, we like thin behind the edge knives. A knife is intended first and foremost to cut. Yes, I did a video on our knives used for hard use, and I think in a pinch they definitely can be. And you might want something a little more robust. But generally speaking, knives are made to cut, and I stand by that. I don't want my knife, fillet knife thin in my pocket, where it's going to be, 6 thousandths blade stock thickness or even thinner, and it's going to break just by opening up a letter. That's different, But you understand what I'm saying. Knife companies, if you're listening up, don't make it 25 thousandths behind the edge, not even 20. Start cutting it down. Bring it to 10 thousandths behind the edge, or better yet, bring it to 5 thousandths behind the edge. Because with the proper heat treatment and the proper edge geometry, that knife is still going to hold up very well. If you want proof of that, look at Big Brown Bear's channel. Sean Houston, custom knife maker, amazing individual as a person, full of knowledge, knows how to heat treat knives. He is very much in tune with that. Laren Thomas of Knife Steel Nerds has a wealth of information as well. But, overall, the industry, I think, I don't want to say it's dying, it's just oversaturated. There's too much of the same look-alike things, too many cookie-cutter things, nothing that really stands out, nothing that's unique and different in its own right. I know I might get a comment here or there. What about Winter Blade Co. or this brand? Like I said, guys, I'm not into Chinese knives, so that's not my shtick whatsoever. I don't support them. Now, when it comes to custom knife makers, that's a different topic altogether. Like in regards to my Clyde Challenor Viper that you see right here, I've showed this before. That knife, the Clyde Challenor. Okay, let me just move these a little. All in frame? Okay, good. The Clyde Challenor is a well heat treated M390 blade steel. Extremely high tolerances on the knife. Extremely well done machining. You're going to get a great bang for your buck. Plus, you're supporting a really amazing guy in the knife industry. When it comes to custom knife makers, there's always ingenuity because it's a one-man show. You know, you're going to get a lot of ingenuity in higher production knife companies such as Koenig, Shiro, Shiro Goroff. You're going to get a lot of unique and interesting things there that you won't generally see in the production knife world. But custom knives too, and like I said, they have so much more to work with. They have a lot more ingenuity. They have more of that entrepreneur complex about them because that's their livelihood. A lot of makers are like that, whether it's Todd Begg or Alan Elishewitz, or as I mentioned, Clyde Challenor, or I'm just trying to think of some other people off the top of my head. Thomas Goni of GTK Knives, David Lespect, Michael Raymond, who else? R.J. Martin. There's so many people out there, but yes, custom knife prices have gone up a lot too. I agree, but if I'm gonna spend my money, if I'm gonna spend $600 on a production knife or something like that, with a poorer heat treat and not as good fit and finish and things like that, or maybe decent or good fit and finish or very good. But if I'm going to spend that much on a production knife, I'm going to just spend a few hundred more and get a custom knife. It's just that much better. It's more worth it in my opinion. And some of these custom knives, like for instance the Clyde Challenors, they're made very well for reasonable prices. These prices start at like $950 for one of these you see in front of you, the Viper. All right, that's a really good price considering even the Medfords are up as high as $900, $1,000 on so many of their models, or $700, depending on the model you get. So obviously your mileage may vary, but in regards to the knife industry, I would love to see a more vibrant effect down the road. Maybe they hire some new designers, or maybe the existing designers that they have come up with some really interesting and unique things that are just out of the norm. A lot of companies rest on their laurels. And I understand, you have your Buck 110, you have your Benchmade 940. I get it. But do something a little different. The market is craving, in my opinion, for a little more variety. And you might say there's a lot of variety, but if you've been in the industry as long as I have, you'll realize that it's just a pressing mill of the same things over and over and over again. Like I said, a lot of cookie cutter stuff and things that really just don't stand out. I want something that stands out, that's unique, and it's different. And you could even ask me, well, Dave, why do you have Spydercos? Do they really stand out? Well, maybe not to you. I think they do. Their designs are unique and they're a little more different, I would say, than your typical Buck or Benchmade or even another company that you like. I personally also love thumb holes in my knives, so I really like the Spyderco Manix, and I did a video on why it was my favorite model. Not especially, but preferably, or more specifically, the lightweight Manix 2 model is my favorite. One of my favorite my favorite Spyderco model. My apologies. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've left out in regards to this topic. No, this is basically a rant, guys, but I just wanted to go over it. It's been on my mind to share. The knife industry, I think, it's just, for what they're charging now, even from the last few years prior. And let me tell you, the forced inflation has definitely affected the knife industry too. It's affected steel. It's affected composites such as, the G10 on knife handle scales. It's affected the titanium prices. It's affected the micarta and TerroTough and other materials, screws and all different types of polymers, plastics, whether that's FRN or FRCP or GFN, it's affecting the prices on all those things. And I think a lot of the knife industry as a whole has gotten very out of hand in their prices for production knife companies. And, like I just said, just a few years ago, it was much cheaper for certain knives. I mean, but regardless of that fact, that's what we're living in right now. And I don't see those prices ever going back down again, to be honest with you. I don't see a Manix 2 lightweight, let's just use their standard BD1N model. It's not really expensive, but it's like $130 new. Not a bad price at all. Just a few years ago, though, it was probably like $90. I wish it was still $90. Yeah, sure. Should it be? Yeah, probably. Without the forced inflation, definitely could be. Not trying to pick on Benchmade. They're definitely my favorite production knife manufacturer, but just making a point. Let's pick on Benchmade for a moment. Benchmade has their bailout. They have their higher end bailout they came out with. I think it sports like M4, S90V. I forget which one. They have a titanium version. It's like $600. Well, that's really absurd for what you're getting. Considering I believe you can make like a bug out in titanium for less money through their website for probably like $450, something like that. So, I mean, the bailout, 600 titanium, like I said, either S90V, M4, something like that. And it's a production knife. The bailouts, what were they going for initially when they came out? Like 250, maybe 300? Is that what they're up to now? Now they're pushing, I think, even over 300 or something like that. I didn't look up the amount before I made this video. And then the higher end production model. Oh, actually, let me pick on Microtech. Microtech, what is their more popular or their most popular model? The Ultratech. Those started like even a few years ago. They were like 250. You could go to Blade Show and get one for like, even like 6 or 7 years ago, they were like $200. Now they're up to like $300 and $400, and even like the Troodons, they're like $400 and $500. It's like, come on, dude. It's just gotten way out of hand. The prices are absurd overall. So, yeah, like I said, those are a couple things I wanted to share. I would love to see things that are more unique and special in the industry. I would love to see knife makers partner with some of these companies to give them different designs, or just have some of their designers come up with something that's different, that stands out, and so that not everything looks like a Benchmade bug out. There's nothing wrong with a bug out. It's a well-made knife. I'm not preferable to the GFN model, but I mean, like the S90V and carbon fiber one is the one I would go for. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else to share. Just trying to see if I left anything out. I think that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any other, or I should say, if you have any questions or any comments you want to add, feel free to add them down below. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts, and just have a discussion. But other than that, feel free to check out my other videos. I try to keep topics a little more vibrant or a little more out of the norm. Anybody can make a standard knife video about a particular knife, and that's fine, but try to do things that are a little different. You'll see in my other videos, try to do more topical information. I probably will do a video too, here or there, discussing more models in general, like if I was just strictly focusing on the Viper in front of you that you see, or another model or maker of some kind. So anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of the week, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.